Captain Lee Doyen stood in the command center of Haven Station and watched the alien warships appear on his screen. 12 massive vessels dropped out of hyperspace like predators surrounding wounded prey. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had built in this sector. Their dark hulls absorbed the light from the distant star, making them look like pieces of the void itself had come alive. "Sir, they're hailing us," said young Jiwan from the communications station. She was only 16, but she had her father's steady hands. Her voice didn't shake, though Doyen could see the fear in her eyes. "Put them through," Doyen said. The main screen flickered. An alien face appeared, all sharp angles and cold eyes that reflected no warmth. The creature's skin was gray like old metal, and when it spoke, the translator made its voice sound like grinding stones. "I am Overlord Thexeril of the Vril Dominion. This station and all resources in this system now belong to the Dominion. You will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in the death of every living thing on that station." Doyen had been a captain in the Terran Navy once, 15 years ago. He had retired after losing half his crew in a pirate raid he should have prevented. He had come to Haven Station to escape the weight of command, to live quietly among the 3,000 colonists who had made this remote outpost their home. Most of them were Korean families who had left Earth 2 generations ago, seeking a new life among the stars. Now that old weight settled back on his shoulders like an iron cloak. "This is Captain Lee Doyen of Haven Station. We are a peaceful mining colony under the protection of the Terran Coalition. Leave this system immediately or face consequences." The alien's expression didn't change, but something that might have been amusement flickered in its eyes. "Protection? The nearest human military base is 47 light-years away. Even if you sent a distress call the moment we arrived, help would not reach you for 47 years. You are alone, Captain. You have 48 hours to decide between slavery and death. Choose wisely." The screen went black. Silence filled the command center. Doyen could hear the soft hum of the station's life support systems, the distant clang of mining equipment that someone had forgotten to shut down. Normal sounds of a normal day that had suddenly become anything but normal. "Send the distress call," Doyen said quietly. "Full emergency broadcast. Send it to Coalition Command, to every ship within 100 light-years, to anyone who might hear it." Jiwan's fingers flew across her console. "Signal sent, sir." But the Overlord was right. Even with quantum relays, the message won't reach command for at least 18 hours. And then they'd need to send ships. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Everyone in the room understood mathematics. Help wasn't coming. Not in time. "Get me Engineer Choi," Doyen said. Minutes later, Choi Hyun-woo arrived in the command center. He was young, barely 30, with oil stains on his uniform and the intense focus of someone who understood machines better than people. He listened to Doyen's explanation without interrupting. "Our defenses?" Hyun-woo said when Doyen finished. "We have 3-point defense turrets designed to shoot down asteroids, not warships. Our hull plating might stop micrometeorites. Against military-grade plasma weapons, we might as well be made of paper. The shields could maybe hold for 3-4 minutes if I push them past safety limits." "Do it," Doyen said. "Push everything past safety limits. We're not going to surrender to slavers." Hyun-woo nodded and left without another word. Doyen turned to his daughter. "Jiwan, go find Dr. Park. Tell her to prepare the hospital for casualties. Tell her to set up triage centers in the interior sections away from the hull." "Dad," Jiwan said, and her voice finally cracked. "We're going to die, aren't we?" Doyen wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her that help was coming, that everything would be fine, that she would grow old and have children and grandchildren of her own. But he had lied to his crew once before, told them a patrol route was safe when he wasn't sure. Half of them had died because of that lie. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I know we're not going to give up. Go find Dr. Park." The next 48 hours passed like a nightmare in slow motion. Doyen ordered all non-essential personnel to move to the station's core, the most protected area. He organized volunteer security teams, though everyone knew their small arms would be useless against alien boarding parties. He checked and rechecked their meager defenses, searching for anything he might have missed. Dr. Park Minji worked without sleep, converting storage rooms into emergency medical centers. She was 10 years younger than Doyen, with gentle hands that had delivered half the babies born on Haven Station in the past 5 years. Now those same hands sorted medical supplies and prepared for the injured and dying. "How many do you think will survive?" she asked Doyen during one of his inspections. "I don't know," he said. It was becoming his standard answer. You should have stayed in the Navy, Minji said softly. You were good at it, they said, before I got my people killed, Doyen finished. Yeah, maybe if I had stayed, I'd know what to do now. Maybe I'd have some brilliant strategy. You're doing everything you can, Minji said. Sometimes that's all anyone can do. Hyunwoo pushed the shields to 140% capacity. He rerouted power from non-essential systems, even life support in the outer rings. He worked until his hands shook from exhaustion, and then he worked more. The alien fleet didn't move. They simply waited in formation, 12 dark shapes against the stars, counting down the hours until their deadline. Jiwon stayed at her communication station, monitoring every frequency. She listened to the scared voices of colonists on the station's internal channels. She heard children crying, parents trying to comfort them with lies about how everything would be okay. She heard the silence from space, the absolute lack of any response to their distress call. When the 48 hours ended, Doyen stood in the command center, surrounded by his small crew. Hyunwoo was there, looking exhausted. Minji had come up from the hospital. Jiwon sat at her console, her young face set in grim determination. Any response to our distress call? Doyen asked, though he knew the answer. Nothing, sir, Jiwon said. The main screen activated without being asked. Overlord Thexril appeared again, its face still showing no emotion. Your time is finished, Captain. What is your answer? Doyen thought about the 3,000 people depending on him. He thought about the children in the school section, the families in their habitat modules, the miners who had spent their lives pulling precious minerals from the moon below. He thought about his daughter beside him, so young and so brave. He thought about the crew he had lost 15 years ago, and the promise he had made to never let anyone down again. No, Doyen said simply. Then you have chosen death, the Overlord said. So be it. The alien ships began to glow as they charged their weapons. Doyen could see the energy building on his sensors, enough power to crack the station open like an egg. He reached out and took his daughter's hand. I'm sorry, he whispered. Then Jiwon gasped, Sir! Energy signature. Massive energy signature dropping out of hyperspace. Doyen's eyes snapped to the sensors. Something was coming. Something big. The readings were unlike anything he had ever seen. Whatever it was tearing through the fabric of space itself, moving impossibly fast. What is it? Minji asked. The signature resolved on their screens, dropping into normal space between Haven Station and the alien fleet. For a moment, Doyen couldn't process what he was seeing. It was a ship, a human ship, but it was enormous. Larger than any vessel the Terran Coalition had publicly announced. Its hull was matte black, covered in armor plating that looked like it could shrug off a meteor strike. Weapons bristled from every surface, and on its side, in letters 10 meters tall, was painted a single word. Reaper. Unknown vessel, identify yourself, Doyen said, his voice barely working. A new voice came over the communications channel. It was calm, measured, and absolutely confident. Haven Station, this is Admiral Kim Taeyong of the Terran Coalition ship Reaper. We received your distress call. Hold your position. We'll take it from here. Jiwon started to cry. Hyunwoo sat down hard in his chair. Minji covered her mouth with both hands. Doyen just stared at the screen, at the massive warship that had appeared like an answer to a prayer he hadn't dared to speak. Help had come after all. Admiral Kim Taeyong sat in the command chair of the TCS Reaper and studied the tactical display. 12 virile warships formed a loose sphere around Haven Station. Each one outmassed his ship by a factor of 3. Any normal commander would see those odds and run. Kim was not a normal commander. Commander Han, status report, he said. Commander Han Yoonji stood at the tactical station, her fingers moving across holographic controls. She had served with Kim for 20 years. Through 3 wars and countless skirmishes, she knew his mind almost as well as he did. All weapons charged and ready, sir. Shields are online but not yet raised. The virile fleet is powering weapons. They seem to think we're insane for dropping in alone. They're not wrong, said Lieutenant Kang Minho from the weapons station. He was young for his rank, only 31, but he could target a moving fighter from 200,000 kilometers. Sir, those are 12 heavy cruisers. Standard virile military configuration. Plasma lances, kinetic cannons, missile batteries. They're slow, but they hit hard. Noted, Kim said. How long until they're in effective firing range? They're already in range, sir. So are we. Kim allowed himself a small smile. The Viral didn't know what they were facing. The Reaper was a Thanatos-class dreadnought, the first of its kind. For 5 years, humanity had been preparing for war with the Viral Dominion in complete secrecy. While the aliens had grown comfortable and lazy, human engineers had been revolutionizing weapons technology. The main screen showed Overlord Thexral's face. The alien looked amused. "One human ship," the Overlord said through the translator. "You traveled all this way to die with these colonists? How noble. How pointless. Surrender now and I will make your death quick." Kim leaned forward in his chair. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Negative. You have 10 seconds to withdraw or be destroyed." There was a moment of silence. Then the Overlord began to laugh, a harsh sound like metal scraping on stone. "Destroy us? You are 1 ship against 12. We are the Viral Dominion. We have conquered 100 worlds. We will tear your pathetic vessel apart and use the pieces to—" "5 seconds," Kim interrupted. The laughing stopped. "You dare— 3 seconds." The Overlord's face twisted in rage. "Kill them." "Kill them all." The screen went dark. Kim nodded to Commander Han. "Execute defense pattern Delta, weapons free." The Viral fleet opened fire as one. Plasma lances stabbed through space. Bright green beams that could melt through titanium like butter. Missiles launched in swarms of hundreds. Kinetic cannons fired solid slugs the size of cars. All of it slammed into the Reaper's hull. On Haven Station, Doyen watched in horror as the human ship was engulfed in fire and explosions. The Viral were hitting it with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "They're going to be destroyed," Jiwon whispered. But then the explosions cleared. The Reaper hung in space, completely undamaged. Its hull wasn't even scorched. "Ablative armor," Hyunwoo breathed. "They're using some kind of ablative armor that disperses energy on contact. I've theorized about it, but I never thought—" The Reaper moved. It accelerated so fast that Doyen's sensors almost lost track of it. One moment it was hanging in space. The next it was diving straight into the center of the Viral formation. "Now," Kim said calmly. The Reaper's railgun batteries opened fire. These weren't normal ship weapons. They were electromagnetic accelerators that could throw tungsten slugs at 4% of light speed. Each projectile carried more kinetic energy than a nuclear bomb. The first Viral cruiser never had a chance. 6 slugs hit it in less than a second. They punched through its shields, through its armor, through its entire hull from bow to stern. The ship broke in half, its internal atmosphere exploding out in frozen clouds. The second cruiser tried to evade. It was too slow. Railgun fire walked up its spine, destroying engines, weapons, life support. It went dark and began to drift. Lieutenant Kang worked his controls with focused intensity. Target lock, fire, target lock, fire. Each time his fingers moved, another Viral ship died or was crippled. "Missiles incoming," Commander Han said. 400 and counting. "Point defense," Kim ordered. The Reaper's hull seemed to come alive. Dozens of laser turrets tracked and fired in perfect coordination. The lasers were short-range but incredibly precise. They could hit a 1-centimeter target from 10 kilometers away. The missiles began to explode before they could reach the ship. One by one, then in groups, then in waves. The laser grid swatted them down like a human might swat at insects. In 15 seconds, 400 missiles became expanding clouds of debris. "Viral cruisers 3 and 4 are trying to flank us," Han reported. "Let them," Kim said. The 2 Viral ships came at the Reaper from opposite sides, their plasma lances firing continuously. The human dreadnought finally raised its shields, and the green beams splashed against invisible barriers without effect. "Target their reactor cores," Kim ordered. "Precision strikes only." Kang's hands moved. The railguns fired twice. 2 shots, 2 direct hits. Both Viral cruisers exploded from within as their reactors went critical. 4 minutes had passed since the battle began. 8 Viral ships were destroyed or crippled. The remaining 4 were trying to reorganize, but their formation was broken and their confidence was shattered. Overlord Thexral's flagship, larger and more heavily armed than the others, began to turn away. It was trying to run. "Sir, the flagship is charging its hyperspace drive," Han said. "Can't let them report back," Kim said. "Unji, plot an intercept course. Minho, I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We may need prisoners." "Yes, sir," they said together. The Reaper accelerated again, its advanced engines pushing it to speeds the Viral couldn't match. The alien flagship fired desperately, everything it had. But the human ship simply took the hits and kept coming. Kang targeted the flagship's engines with surgical precision. 3 railgun slugs, 3 direct hits. The massive ship shuddered and its hyperspace field collapsed before it could fully form. "Sergeant Nam," Kim said into his communicator. "Prepare a boarding party. We're taking prisoners." "With pleasure, sir," came Sergeant Nam Soo-hyun's reply from the marine deck. The 3 remaining virile cruisers broadcast surrender on all frequencies. Their weapons powered down. Their crews abandoned ship in escape pods, preferring to drift in space rather than face the human warship again. Kim leaned back in his chair. "Secure the area. Hand damage report. Minor scoring on the outer ablative layer. 3 laser turrets need calibration. Otherwise, we're at 98% combat efficiency. Casualties? None, sir." Kim nodded. He had expected as much. The virile technology was decades behind humanity's current military development. It hadn't been a battle. It had been a demonstration. "Open a channel to Haven Station," he said. On the station, Doyen stared at his screen in absolute disbelief. The virile fleet was destroyed. All 12 ships eliminated in less than 10 minutes. The Reaper hung among the debris like a predator surveying its kill. "Haven Station, this is Admiral Kim," came the calm voice. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're sending over damage control teams and medical personnel. Are there any casualties on the station?" Doyen tried to speak. His voice wouldn't work. He cleared his throat and tried again. "Admiral Kim, this is Captain Doyen, no casualties. Minor damage from debris impacts. Admiral, He paused, searching for words. "Thank you. We thought we were going to die. We thought no help was coming." "We protect our own, Captain," Kim said. "Always. Stand by for docking procedures." The channel closed. Doyen looked around the command center. Ji-won was crying openly now, tears of relief streaming down her face. Hyunwoo had his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Minji stood with her back to the wall, slowly sliding down to sit on the floor. Outside the window, the Reaper began to move toward the station. It was massive up close, a mountain of armor and weapons drifting gracefully through the debris field it had created. As it passed through a cloud of wreckage, the light from the distant star caught its hull, and for a moment it seemed to glow. Doyen activated the station-wide communication system. His voice went to every habitat module, every corridor, every family that had been preparing to die. "This is Captain Doyen. The threat has been eliminated. We are safe. Repeat, we are safe. A Terran coalition warship has arrived and destroyed the alien fleet. We are safe." The cheering that erupted could be heard even through the command center's thick walls. People were crying, laughing, hugging each other. The children who had been so quiet and frightened were now running through corridors, shouting with joy. Ji-won came to stand beside her father. He put his arm around her shoulders and pulled her close. "I can't believe they came," she whispered. "They actually came." "Neither can I," Doyen admitted. But they had. And as the Reaper moved closer, preparing to dock and render aid, Doyen felt something he hadn't felt in 15 years, not since the day he had lost his crew and left the Navy in shame. He felt hope. The Reaper docked with Haven Station 6 hours after the battle ended. Captain Doyen stood in the main airlock with a small welcoming party, waiting as the massive ship connected its boarding tube to their station. He could feel the vibration through the deck as the 2 vessels locked together. Dr. Park Minji stood beside him, still in her medical coat. Engineer Choi Hyunwoo was there too, unable to hide his excitement at seeing the ship's technology up close. Young Ji-won had insisted on coming, though Doyen had tried to convince her to rest. The airlock door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Admiral Kim Taeyong stepped through first, followed by Commander Han Yoonji, and a squad of Marines in full combat armor led by Sergeant Nam Soo-hyun. Kim was shorter than Doyen had expected, perhaps 50 years old, with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too much combat, but he carried himself with quiet confidence, and when he extended his hand, his grip was firm. "Captain Doyen," Kim said. "It's good to meet you in person." "Admiral Kim," Doyen replied. "I still can't believe you're here. We sent that distress call thinking it was pointless. The nearest base is 47 light-years away." Something flickered in Kim's eyes. "Captain, perhaps we should speak privately." "There are things you need to know." They gathered in the station's command center. Kim had brought only Commander Han with him. Sergeant Nam and his Marines had dispersed throughout the station, securing the perimeter and helping with damage control. Kim stood in front of the main screen, his hands clasped behind his back. For a long moment, he just looked at the view of space outside, at the debris from the Vral fleet still drifting past. "How much do you know about the Vral Dominion?" he asked finally. "Not much," Doyen admitted. "They're an expanding empire, aggressive. They enslave conquered populations. That's about all the public databases say." "The public databases don't know the full story," Kim said. 5 years ago, Coalition intelligence detected virile scout ships probing our outer colonies. Not attacking, just watching, studying us. We realized they were preparing for a major offensive. Hyunwoo leaned forward. 5 years? But we never heard anything about this. "That was intentional," Commander Han said. She pulled up a holographic display showing star charts. The coalition government made a decision to keep the threat classified. They didn't want to cause panic. Instead, they authorized the largest military buildup in human history. The display changed, showing massive shipyards orbiting Saturn's moon Titan. Doyun could see dozens of ships under construction, all the same class as the Reaper. 12 Thanatos-class dreadnoughts, Kim said. "Built in complete secrecy. Each one carries enough firepower to fight an entire fleet. We also upgraded the quantum communication relays. Captain, when you sent that distress call, it didn't take 47 years to reach Coalition Command. It took 18 hours. The room fell silent. Doyun felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. 18 hours? He said quietly. We could have called for help at any time. Yes, Kim said. The relay network has been operational for 3 years. But the existence of the relays is classified. If the Viral knew we could communicate that quickly, they would know we've been preparing for war. You lied to us, Minji said. Her voice was soft, but there was anger in it. You let every colony out here think they were completely alone. You let us think that if something went wrong, we would die before help could possibly arrive. Kim met her eyes without flinching. Yes, we did. Why? Jiwon asked. She looked like she might cry again, but this time from anger rather than relief. Why would you do that? Commander Han answered. Because if colonies knew help was coming, they might take unnecessary risks. They might expand into dangerous territory, or provoke hostile species thinking they could just call for rescue. Fear keeps people cautious. It keeps people safe, Kim added. I know how it sounds. I know you feel betrayed. But the truth is we can't protect everyone. We have 12 dreadnoughts and hundreds of colonies spread across 50 light years. If everyone knew about the relays, we would be responding to calls constantly. We had to be selective. Doyen felt a cold anger building in his chest. So you let us suffer. You let 3,000 people prepare to die, thinking we were completely abandoned. We were already on patrol nearby, Kim said. We were watching for Vral incursions in this sector. When your call came through, we were only 12 hours away at maximum burn. But yes, those 12 hours must have been hell for you. For that, I'm truly sorry. The Admiral pulled up another display. It showed the Vral fleet that had attacked them, and beyond it, highlighted in red, were dozens more fleets. This was a test, Kim said. The Viral wanted to see how we would respond. Now they know. They know we have ships that can match their entire fleet. They know we have fast communication. They know we will defend our colonies. And they'll come back, Hyunwoo said, understanding dawning on his face. With more ships. Yes, Kim said. Long-range sensors detected a Vril reinforcement fleet 3 hours ago. 60 warships heading directly for this system. They'll arrive in about 70 hours. The anger Doyen had been feeling turned into ice-cold fear. 60 ships? Can the Reaper fight that many? No, Kim said bluntly. But the Reaper won't be alone. I've already sent the call. 7 more Thanatos-class dreadnoughts are on their way. They'll arrive before the Viral do. He turned to face them fully. Captain Doyen, this station is about to become a battleground. I'm authorizing the evacuation of all non-essential personnel to the inner system. But I'm also giving you a choice. Haven Station has strategic value. If we fortify it, if we make our stand here, we send a message to the Viral that humanity will not be pushed around. But that means some people will need to stay and help operate the station during the battle. Doyen didn't hesitate. I'm staying. Dad, Jiwon started. I'm staying, Doyen repeated firmly. This is my station. These are my people. I ran away from the Navy once because I made a mistake and people died. I'm not running again. Kim studied him for a moment, then nodded with what looked like respect. Very well. Commander Han will coordinate with you on defensive positions. We have 70 hours to prepare. Dr. Minji stood up. I'm staying too. You'll need medical personnel. And I'm staying, Hyunwoo said. If you're going to fortify this station, you'll need an engineer who knows every system. Jiwon looked at her father. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also determination. I'm staying too. Absolutely not, Doyen said. You're 16. You're getting on an evacuation shuttle. I'm the best communications officer on this station, Jiwon said. You know it's true. During the last battle, I was the one who coordinated all the internal channels. Admiral Kim said they're bringing more ships. Who's going to coordinate communications between 8 dreadnoughts in a station? You? Doyen wanted to argue. He wanted to order her onto a shuttle and physically carry her there if necessary. But she was right. And more than that, she had the same stubborn look her mother had once had, the one that meant no argument would change her mind. Fine, he said quietly. But you follow every order I give without question. Understood? Yes, sir, Jiwon said. Admiral Kim watched this exchange with an expression that might have been sympathy. We'll keep her as safe as we can, Captain. I give you my word. Over the next 12 hours, Haven Station transformed. Coalition engineers swarmed over the structure, installing military-grade shield generators and additional point defense weapons. Sergeant Nam's Marines trained station volunteers in emergency procedures. Doyen worked with Commander Han to identify critical systems that needed protection. Hyunwoo collaborated with the Reaper's engineering team, learning about their technology while helping them understand the station's unique setup. Dr. Minji expanded the medical facilities, working with the Reaper's doctors to prepare for potential casualties. They all knew that this coming battle would be bigger than the last one. Jiwon spent hours with the Reaper's communications team, learning their protocols and encryption methods. She was the youngest person in the room by at least 10 years, but she kept up with everything they taught her. During a rare break, Doyen found Admiral Kim on the observation deck looking out at the stars. I wanted to hate you, Doyen said. For the lies. For letting us think we were abandoned. I understand, Kim said, but I can't because you did come. You were watching, and now you're staying to fight instead of running. Doyen paused. That fleet that's coming. What are our chances? Kim was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. We'll have 8 ships against 60. Our technology is better, but they have numbers. It's going to be close. What happens if we lose? If we lose here, the Vral will know the location of every human colony in this sector. They'll know the limits of our defenses. They'll push harder, attack more aggressively. Kim turned to look at Doyen. And eventually, they'll find Earth. The weight of that settled over both men. This wasn't just about Haven Station anymore. This was about the survival of humanity itself. Then we'd better not lose, Doyen said. No, Kim agreed. We'd better not. Above them, through the observation window, they could see the first of the other dreadnoughts arriving. The TCS Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace, just as massive and intimidating as the Reaper. Then came the Eclipse, the Defiant, the Harbinger. One by one, humanity's most powerful warships gathered at Haven Station. 8 dark mountains of armor and weapons preparing for a battle that would decide the future of human space. And somewhere in the distance, 60 viral warships were coming, hungry for conquest and confident in their numbers. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the storm that was about to break. The command briefing took place aboard the Reaper in the main strategic room. 8 admirals and their executive officers gathered around a holographic display showing the Haven system. Captain Doyen had been invited to attend, along with Engineer Hyunwoo and a handful of senior station personnel. Admiral Kim stood at the head of the table. Beside him was Admiral Song Jinha, commander of the TCS Vengeance. Song was older than Kim, perhaps 55, with a scarred face and the bearing of a man who had spent his entire life in combat. The two men had a history together. Doyen could tell from the way they interacted with both respect and competition. The Viral fleet will arrive in 48 hours, Kim said, pulling up tactical data. 60 warships total. 20 heavy cruisers, 30 medium cruisers, 10 light destroyers. Total crew complement estimated at 200,000. Captain Oyuna of the TCS Eclipse spoke up. She was young for a ship commander, only 38, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. We're outnumbered 7.5 to 1. Standard doctrine says we should fall back and engage with better odds. Standard doctrine assumes the enemy has comparable technology, Admiral Song said. His voice was rough like gravel. These virile bastards are using weapons from 50 years ago. We saw what happened to their last fleet. That was 12 ships, Commander Han pointed out. This is 60. Even with our advantages, numbers matter, Kim nodded. Which is why we're not going to fight them head-on. We're going to use strategy. He manipulated the hologram. The display shifted to show a tactical formation. 4 dreadnoughts appeared in red, 4 more in blue. We call it the hammer and anvil, Kim explained. 4 ships, led by Admiral Song, will engage the virile fleet directly. You'll advance in a tight formation, drawing their attention and their fire. They'll think they've trapped you in a conventional engagement. Song grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. And while they're focused on us, the other 4 ships under my command will execute a short-range hyperspace jump, Kim said. We'll drop out of hyperspace behind their fleet. They'll be caught in a crossfire. The display showed the maneuver. The virile fleet was represented in green, the human ships in red and blue. When the blue ships appeared behind the enemy formation, the green ships were surrounded. The Eclipse will hold back at long range, Kim continued, gesturing to Captain O. Your job is to provide artillery support and pick off their command ships. We've identified the flagship based on their communication patterns. O studied the data. 190,000 kilometers. That's extreme range even for our main guns. Can you make the shot? Yes, sir. But only if someone paints the target for me. Doyen cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at him. For a moment, he felt like an imposter, a civilian sitting at a table of warriors. But Haven Station had the best sensor arrays in the sector, designed for tracking asteroids at extreme range. The station can provide targeting data, he said. Our sensors can track objects down to 1 centimeter at 200,000 kilometers. If you tell us what to look for, we can paint every ship in their fleet. Captain O smiled. That'll work. Dr. Shin Dae-hyun, the Reaper's xenobiologist, stood up. He was in his 40s with the distracted manner of someone who spent most of his time in a laboratory. But when he spoke, everyone listened. I've been studying Vral psychology and combat doctrine for 3 years, Shin said. They're hierarchical to an extreme degree. Everything flows from Central Command. If we eliminate their leadership, the rest of the fleet will lose coordination rapidly. How rapidly? Admiral Song asked. Minutes, possibly faster. They don't train their lower-ranking officers to think independently. It's considered insubordination in their culture. Kim nodded slowly. So if we take out the flagship early, the battle becomes significantly easier. Yes, but there's a complication, Shin said. Vral culture views retreat as worse than death. Even if we destroy their leadership, the remaining ships will continue fighting. They'll fight until they're all destroyed. The room fell silent. Admiral Song was the one who finally spoke. Then we'll destroy them all. Over the next 48 hours, Haven Station became a fortress. The 8 dreadnoughts took up positions around it, their shields overlapping to create a protective bubble. Military engineers installed additional weapons platforms on the station's hull. Sergeant Nam Soo-hyun drilled his Marines alongside station volunteers. Most of the civilians had been evacuated on shuttles to the inner system, but 500 had chosen to stay. Nam worked them hard, teaching them how to operate weapons, how to move under fire, how to seal bulkheads if the hull was breached. Young Jiwon sat in the station's communications center, surrounded by displays and controls. She had been officially deputized as a coalition officer, given access to military encryption codes and tactical channels. The weight of responsibility sat heavy on her shoulders. You're doing well, said Lieutenant Park Samin, the Reaper's senior communications officer. She had been mentoring Jiwon for the past 2 days. Most people need months of training for this level of coordination. You picked it up in hours. I'm terrified, Jiwon admitted quietly. Good, Samin said. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember your training. During the battle, things will get chaotic. Ships will be calling for support, requesting targeting data, reporting damage. Your job is to keep everyone connected. You're the glue that holds the fleet together. No pressure then, Jiwon said with a weak smile. In the engineering section, Hyunwoo worked alongside the Reaper's chief engineer, Lieutenant Commander Baek Jiwoo. They were installing a new reactor to power the station's upgraded shields. This technology, Hyunwoo said, staring at the reactor core. I wrote a paper about this design 7 years ago. The coalition rejected it as too experimental. Baek smiled. They didn't reject it. They classified it. Your paper is the reason these reactors exist. You should be proud. I'm not sure how to feel about that, Hyunwoo said honestly. My theoretical work helped build weapons of war. Your work is going to save 3,000 lives, Beck corrected. Maybe more. Don't think of it as weapons. Think of it as shields, protection. Dr. Minji worked in the expanded medical bay with Dr. Choi Hana from the Vengeance. They had enough equipment and supplies to handle hundreds of casualties, but both knew that might not be enough. In my 20 years as a military doctor, Hana said, I've learned that the hardest part isn't the physical injuries. It's the psychological ones. After a battle like this, people will have nightmares for years. We're already seeing it, Minji said. Children who were on the station during the first attack. They wake up screaming. They flinch at sudden noises. All you can do is be there for them, Hana said. Treat the body, but remember the mind. 24 hours before the Varal fleet's arrival, the admirals held a final strategy meeting. Admiral Kim and Admiral Song stood together, reviewing the battle plan one last time. You should be leading the hammer, Song said. You're the better tactician. And you're the better fighter, Kim countered. This plan needs both. I need you to make them angry, to make them focus everything on you. Can you do that? Song laughed, a harsh sound. Making people angry is my specialty. But Kim, if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, if they break through, you make sure Haven Station survives. Those people deserve to live. Kim met his old friend's eyes. We all survive, or none of us do. That's the deal. They shook hands, a formal gesture between two men who had served together for decades. Captain Doyen spent his final hours before the battle walking through Haven Station. He visited every section, speaking with the volunteers who had chosen to stay. Many of them were people he had known for years. Miners, teachers, shop owners turned into soldiers by necessity. In the residential section, he found his daughter checking communication lines. You should try to sleep, he said. Can't, Ji-won replied. Every time I close my eyes, I see those virile ships. Doyun sat down beside her. I want to tell you it's going to be okay. I want to promise you that we'll survive this. But I learned a long time ago that promises like that are just lies. So what do? We do our jobs. We do them as well as we can. And we trust that the people around us are doing the same. He paused. Your mother would be proud of you, you know. You're braver than I ever was at your age. Ji-won leaned against his shoulder. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing what needs to be done anyway. They sat in silence for a while, father and daughter, waiting for the storm to arrive. 12 hours before the Varal fleet's arrival, long-range sensors picked up their hyperspace signatures. 60 ships traveling in tight formation, moving at maximum speed. 6 hours before arrival, Admiral Kim addressed all ships in the station via general broadcast. This is Admiral Kim Taeyong to all coalition forces. In 6 hours, we will face an enemy that believes humans are weak. They believe we will run. They believe we will surrender our people to slavery and death. We're going to show them how wrong they are. He paused, and when he continued, his voice carried absolute conviction. Every person here volunteered for this. Every ship, every Marine, every station volunteer chose to stand and fight. That choice matters. It means that when the Varal arrive, they won't be facing scattered colonies begging for mercy. They'll be facing humanity united, humanity angry, humanity ready to defend every inch of space we've claimed. To all ships, hold your positions. Trust your training. Trust each other. And when the time comes, show them what it means to fight a human fleet. To Haven Station, you're not civilians anymore. You are coalition defenders, and you have earned that title. Stay strong. The channel closed. Across 8 dreadnoughts and 1 converted mining station, 5,000 people prepared for the battle of their lives. And in the darkness of space, 60 virile warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already charging, their commanders confident in their inevitable victory. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The virile fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts. 60 warships, each one bristling with weapons, formed a massive wedge formation. At the center was the flagship, twice the size of the other vessels, its hull decorated with the skulls of a dozen conquered species. Grand Admiral Vexthor stood on his command bridge and surveyed the human forces with contempt. 8 ships. 8 pathetic human ships defending 1 insignificant station. His fleet outnumbered them 7-1. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. Transmit our demands, he ordered. The message went out on all frequencies. Human vessels, you are surrounded and outmatched. Surrender the system immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply. On the Reaper's bridge, Admiral Kim listened to the transmission without expression. Commander Han stood at his side, her hands steady on the tactical controls. 1 minute, she said. How generous. Let them wait, Kim said. Song, are you ready? On the Vengeance, Admiral Song grinned as he checked his weapons status. His ship, along with the Defiant Harbinger and Justice, formed the Hammer Group. They hung in space directly in front of the Vrall fleet, looking small and vulnerable. Ready and waiting, Song replied. Anytime you want to start this dance. Kim counted down the seconds in his head. When the minute expired, he opened a channel to the Vrall fleet. This is Admiral Kim Taeyong of the Terran Coalition. Negative on your surrender demand. You have violated Coalition space. You have threatened Coalition citizens. Leave immediately or be destroyed. There was a moment of silence. Then Vexthor's laughter echoed across the channel, harsh and cruel. You dare threaten us? We are 60 ships. You are 8. We will crush you, and then we will enslave every human in this system. You can try, Kim said simply. All ships weapons free. Execute hammer and anvil. Admiral Song didn't wait for a second invitation. Vengeance Group, full burn. Let's make these bastards angry. The 4 dreadnoughts of the Hammer Group accelerated directly at the Vrall fleet. Their railguns opened fire, tungsten slugs crossing the distance at impossible speeds. The first volley hit the Vrall formation, punching through shields and armor. 2 Vrall cruisers exploded immediately. A third began to list, its engines damaged. Vexthor snarled in rage. All ships, focus fire on those 4 vessels. Destroy them! The Vrall fleet did exactly what Kim had hoped. All 60 ships turned their attention to Song's group, pouring everything they had at the 4 dreadnoughts. Plasma lances, missiles, kinetic rounds, all of it concentrated on the hammer. Shields holding, reported Commander Ryu Taejin on the Vengeance. Taking heavy fire, but we're good. Keep them focused on us, Song ordered. Kim, any time now would be great. Behind the Vrall fleet, space itself began to tear. 4 massive hyperspace portals opened, and the Reaper, Eclipse, Wrath, and Thunder dropped into normal space 50,000 kilometers behind the enemy formation. The anvil had fallen. All weapons, fire, Kim ordered. The 4 dreadnoughts opened up on the Vrall rear guard. Ships that had been focused entirely on the Hammer Group suddenly found themselves taking fire from behind. Their formation, already tight, became a death trap. Ships collided trying to turn. Others fired at random, hitting their own allies. On Haven Station, Captain Doyen watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. Jiwon, get me firing solutions for the Eclipse. Hyunwoo, route all power to the targeting sensors. On it, they both said. Young Jiwon's fingers flew across her console. The station's sensors locked onto every Vrall ship, tracking their movements with microscopic precision. The data flowed directly to Captain O aboard the Eclipse. Haven Station, this is Eclipse, O's voice came through. I have your targeting data. It's beautiful. Engaging now. The Eclipse hung back from the main battle, its massive spinal-mounted mass accelerator charging. The weapon was 10 meters wide and ran the entire length of the ship. It could throw a 5-ton projectile at 15% of light speed. O identified Vexthor's flagship through the data Jiwon was feeding her. Target locked, firing. The Eclipse's main gun fired with a flash that lit up space. The projectile crossed 190,000 kilometers in less than 2 seconds. It hit the Vrall flagship's shields with enough force to create a miniature sun. The shields held for almost a full second before they collapsed completely. The second shot followed 3 seconds later. This one punched through the flagship's armor and detonated deep in its interior. The massive vessel broke in half, secondary explosions tearing through both pieces. Grand Admiral Vexthor died without even understanding what had killed him. Dr. Shin had been right about Vrall psychology. Without their central command, the fleet descended into chaos. Ships began firing independently, some trying to flee, others charging blindly at the nearest human vessel. The coordinated wedge formation became a disorganized mob. Now we finish it, Admiral Kim said. All ships free engagement. Target at will. What followed was not so much a battle as a systematic dismantling. The human dreadnoughts moved through the Vrall fleet like sharks through a school of fish. Their superior technology, better training, and coordinated tactics made the fight completely one-sided. Lieutenant Kang aboard the Reaper targeted ship after ship with mechanical precision. Lock, fire, Each shot meant another. Vrel cruiser destroyed or crippled. The Hammer Group, no longer taking concentrated fire, went on the offensive. Admiral Song drove the Vengeance straight through the center of the enemy formation, his railguns firing from both sides. Vrel ships exploded in his wake, but the Vril didn't run. True to Dr. Shin's prediction, they fought to the last ship even knowing they had lost. They died with honor by their own standards, but they died. 20 minutes into the battle, 3 Vrel cruisers broke away from the main engagement and headed directly for Haven Station. They were damaged and desperate, but still dangerous. "We've got incoming," Captain Doyen said. 3 cruisers on attack vector." Sergeant Nam's voice came through on the station channel. "Marines are in position. If they try to board, we'll be ready." "Let's not let it get that far," Doyen said. "Hyunwoo, can you get the point defense turrets online?" "Already on it," Hyunwoo replied. His hands moved across the engineering console, routing power from non-essential systems to the weapons. "Turrets are charged. They're old and they're slow, but they'll shoot." The 3 Vrel cruisers closed in, firing their plasma lances at the station. The shots hit the new military-grade shields and dispersed harmlessly. "Return fire," Doyen ordered. The ancient point defense turrets activated, tracking the incoming ships with surprising accuracy. They had been designed to shoot down asteroids, but a ship was just a bigger target. The turrets fired, solid slugs crossing space and slamming into the damaged Vrel cruisers. One of the cruisers took a direct hit to its already compromised reactor. The ship exploded in a brief sun, debris expanding outward in all directions. The other 2 kept coming. One managed to close to boarding range and fired grappling cables at the station. "They're trying to board," G1 shouted. "I see them," Sergeant Nam said calmly. He was in the lower docking ring with 30 Marines and 50 station volunteers. "Let them come." The Vrel boarding party cut through the airlock with plasma torches. 20 alien soldiers poured into the corridor, their weapons ready, their faces showing the grim determination of warriors who knew they were already dead. They ran directly into a kill zone. Nam's Marines opened fire from behind barricades, their rifles spitting armor-piercing rounds. The volunteers, people who had been miners and teachers 2 days ago, fought with desperate courage. The corridor became a charnel house. The Vril were tough and well-trained, but they were also injured and outnumbered. The fight lasted 3 minutes. When it ended, all 20 alien soldiers were dead. The humans had lost 5 volunteers and 2 Marines. "Boarding party neutralized," Nam reported. His voice was steady, but Doyen could hear the pain in it. "We've got casualties. Requesting medical support." Dr. Minji was already moving, her team grabbing supplies and rushing to the docking ring. Outside, the TCS Vengeance broke off from the main battle to defend the station. Admiral Song targeted the 2 remaining Vrel cruisers with focused fire. One lost its engines and began to drift. The other, in a final act of desperation, tried to ram the station. It never made it. The Vengeance fired a full broadside, 20 railgun slugs hitting the cruiser in less than a second. The ship simply disintegrated, reduced to expanding clouds of debris and frozen atmosphere. In the main battle, the Vrel fleet was down to 15 ships. Then 10, then 5. The last Vrel captain, his ship crippled and drifting, broadcast a final message. "Humans, you have won this battle, but the Dominion is vast. More fleets will come. You cannot stand against—" A railgun slug cut off his transmission permanently. Admiral Kim surveyed the battlefield. 60 Vrel ships had attacked. 60 Vrel ships were now debris. The human fleet had suffered damage but no losses. The Defiant was heavily damaged and would need to be towed back for repairs, but her crew had survived. "All ships, status report," Kim ordered. One by one, the reports came in. The Vengeance had taken heavy fire but was combat effective. The Eclipse was undamaged. The others reported various levels of damage, nothing critical. "Haven Station report," Kim said. Captain Doyen's voice came through. "Station shields are down to 30%. We took some hull damage in the aft section. 7 dead, 23 wounded. But we're still here, Admiral. We're still here." Kim allowed himself a small smile. "Well done, Captain." "Well done, everyone." On Haven Station, Juwon slumped in her chair, exhausted. She had maintained communications throughout the entire battle, coordinating between 8 dreadnoughts and dozens of departments. Her hands were shaking from adrenaline crash. "You did good, kid," Lieutenant Samin said, putting a hand on her shoulder. "Really good." In the medical bay, Dr. Minji worked on the wounded. The 5 volunteers who had died defending the docking ring were laid out respectfully. covered with sheets. She had known all of them. One had been her neighbor. Another had delivered her groceries every week. Dr. Hana worked beside her in silence, understanding that some pain couldn't be healed with medicine. Engineer Hyunwoo stood in the station's damage section, surveying the twisted metal and exposed systems. It would take weeks to repair, but the station had survived. That was what mattered. 6 hours after the battle ended, Coalition Command sent a transmission. The Vril Dominion was requesting peace talks. The destruction of 2 entire fleets had convinced them that humans were not easy prey. Admiral Kim addressed the combined fleet and Haven Station one final time. What happened here today will be remembered. Not just because we won, but because of what we proved. We proved that humans protect their own. We proved that distance doesn't matter, numbers don't matter, odds don't matter. When our people are threatened, we respond with everything we have. He paused, looking at the faces on his screen. Tired faces, injured faces, but faces filled with pride. Haven Station will become a forward military base. The Coalition is upgrading your defenses, expanding your facilities. You'll be the shield that protects this entire sector, and you've earned that responsibility. 6 months later, Haven Station was almost unrecognizable. Military vessels came and went regularly. The population had grown to 5,000 as new personnel arrived. The old mining equipment had been replaced with defensive platforms and sensor arrays. Captain Doyen, now Commodore Doyen, stood in the expanded command center and watched ships conducting training exercises. He had accepted reinstatement in the Navy, not to run away from his past failure, but to honor those who had fought and died. Dr. Minji served as chief medical officer for the entire sector, training new doctors and counseling those with battle trauma. Engineer Hyunwoo had been recruited to the Titan Naval Yards. His last message had been excited beyond measure. They were letting him work on the next generation of dreadnoughts. Young Jiwon had received a full scholarship to the Terran Naval Academy. She would leave in a month. Doyen was proud beyond words, though he would miss her terribly. In the center of the station's main plaza, a memorial had been erected. 7 names were carved into black stone, the volunteers who had died defending their home. Below the names was an inscription. They thought no help was coming. They were wrong. Humanity protects its own, across any distance, against any odds, until the stars themselves burn out. Admiral Kim visited the station occasionally, always making time to stand before the memorial. He knew every name, had read every report, had written personal letters to every family. On one such visit, Doyen found him there. "Do you think they'll attack again?" Doyen asked. "The Vril?" "No," Kim said. "They've seen what we can do. They've told other species about the human ships that destroyed 2 fleets. We're not prey anymore. We're predators. Is that a good thing?" Kim considered the question. "It's a necessary thing. The universe is dangerous. Being strong enough to protect ourselves means being strong enough to hurt others. We just have to remember to use that strength wisely." They stood in silence for a moment, honoring the dead. Then Kim's communicator chimed. He checked it and smiled slightly. "Another distress call. A colony in the Outer Rim is reporting raiders. Will you go?" "Of course," Kim said. "That's what we do." He turned to leave, then paused. "Doyen, your daughter is going to be an excellent officer. You should be proud." "I am," Doyen said. "But I'm terrified too. Sending her out there." "She'll be fine," Kim said with certainty. "She's got your courage and her mother's intelligence. That's a dangerous combination." Admiral Kim left the Memorial Plaza and headed for the docking bay where the Reaper waited. Commander Han was already on the bridge, preparing for departure. "Where to, sir?" she asked. Kim pulled up the star charts. The distress call marker blinked red, 40 light-years away. "Set course," he ordered. Maximum burn. The Reaper's engines flared to life. The massive dreadnought turned gracefully in space, orienting toward the distant stars where people needed help. As it accelerated away from Haven Station, young Jiwon watched from the observation deck. She touched the wall gently, feeling the vibration of the station's heart, and made a silent promise. Someday she would command her own ship. Someday she would be the one responding to distress calls, protecting colonists who thought no help was coming. Someday she would prove that the stars themselves were not vast enough to separate humanity from those who needed saving. But for now she had studying to do. The Academy awaited, and the Reaper carrying Admiral Kim and his crew disappeared into hyperspace, ready once more to answer the call.